One night Jessica Turner, a mother of three, Turner talked to the children at the dinner table about their day at school. She noticed that her husband, Matthew Turner, acting weird for a few days, and that night seemed even more different when she sent the kids back after dinner. Prepare your own room for bed with your nightly routine. When there were only two people left, Jessica asked Matthew if something was wrong. She was about to learn what Matthew had been hiding from her for so long that, later that night, all Jessica could think about was what might have happened to her husband. She became even more confused when her husband refused to talk at dinner. At the moment, her husband is lying on the bed next to her facing the opposite direction and cannot stand his strange behavior. Was she wrong to believe that everything was fine between them? The next day, while Jessica was preparing breakfast and packing the kids' lunch boxes, her husband hurried over to kiss her goodbye and went to the office early. With her curiosity hidden, Jessica managed to say a proper goodbye to her husband. As soon as he left for work, Jessica began to wonder about the reason for his strange behavior. She put that thought aside and went back to packing the children's lunch boxes. Jessica was still lost in her thoughts as she drove her children to school, and as they approached the school grounds, Jessica reminded her children to behave in school. After dropping off the kids, Jessica drove home to get ready for her own office work. As soon as she got home, she quickly showered and dressed for work, which usually started at 6 a.m. Jessica has a lot of content to edit in the office. Despite the pile of articles demanding her attention, Jessica still found herself spending time thinking about her husband. She felt uneasy at the thought of why Matthew seemed distracted. For a long time she had been obsessed with the idea that her husband seemed depressed and distant. During the afternoon break, Jessica called the publishing house where her husband worked. Matthew's secretary answered the phone and Jessica took the opportunity to ask how her husband was doing at the office. The secretary assured her that she had found nothing unusual about Matthew Turner and that he had been doing a good job. Jessica was relieved and thanked the secretary before ending the call. Jessica picked up the kids from school after work. On the drive home, her children shared what they had learned at school. Giggles filled the car as her children happily shared highlights of their day. Listening to the children's stories, Jessica found comfort in their happiness. Her heart suddenly relaxed. There was a lot of laughter on the way home. Jessica happily joined in the children's laughter. As soon as they got home, Jessica let the children go inside. Then she parked her car in the garage. Upon entering the house, Jessica saw that dinner was ready. Her husband and children were sitting on the sofa watching cartoons. Jessica gave her husband a kiss and a hug and then asked the children to join them for dinner. At dinner, Jessica put aside her previous thoughts about Matthew and the dinner went well and the children enjoyed themselves. After a while, the kids went back to the couch and continued watching cartoons. Jessica and Matthew sat awkwardly at the table looking at each other. They called each other's names at the same time to start the conversation. Jessica summoned all her strength to express her concern to him. Matthew asked him why she felt he was pulling away from her. Matthew had collected himself before saying what he had been holding for so long, and then there was a moment of silence, and just as Matthew was about to speak, the children interrupted them and they sounded sleepy now. Jessica took the children into their bedroom and put them to sleep. Matthew was left on the dining table to put the children to bed. After that, Jessica went into the kitchen to make coffee. She saw Matthew sitting on the couch deep in thought, and she motioned for him to join her for coffee by calling his name. Matthew broke the silence and blurted out a confession that shocked Jessica. Matthew admitted he was bisexual and said he looked Jessica straight in the eye with worry and fear. Matthew's confession drove the couple even further apart. Despite their efforts, Jessica and Matthew are trying to save their marriage at their own pace. They attended marriage counseling but were unsuccessful after trying to save their marriage. No matter how hard Jessica tried to bond with her husband, Matthew still continued to cut off contact with her, and after a long time Matthew revealed an even more terrible secret to Jessica. Matthew Turner said heartily, "Despite the sadness and grief I am currently going through, but for the first time in my life, I can confidently say that as a gay man, I am ready to embrace free hope in God." He went on to explain, "I have spent over decisive years in the fundamentalist, evangelical church. Exploring God through conservative theology, there were days when I was overwhelmed by fear, shame, and self-hatred, and after long years of marriage he finally worked up the courage to share the truth with Jessica. It feels like he can spread his wings like a butterfly now. Matthew was married to Jessica for years before he told the truth about himself because he felt braver than ever. He always thought homosexuality was unacceptable. Matthew shared that he only dated women and eventually met Jessica and fell deeply in love with her, and marrying her to start a wonderful family was never a second thought for him. After Matthew's outpouring, Jessica took quite a bit of time to process what he had shared, and Matthew patiently waited for Jessica's response, hoping she would understand his actions. When Jessica learned the truth, she felt sad for what she might have lost. There's no doubt that she was in pain and experienced moments of frustration and resentment that are a natural part of the grieving process. She mourned the loss of their relationship and marriage, and it was hard for her to accept. The thought of living without the man she had imagined growing old with was unbearable. Despite her grief, Jessica still hopes their relationship can return to what it was before. Both Jessica and Matthew kept it to themselves from anyone, especially their children, because they were the most vulnerable to the truth. For a long time the couple continued to live as if nothing had happened, putting on a front for her children and family. In the midst of her grief, Jessica couldn't help but think about the past and how it all started. They met in Sawan when Jessica was still in college at the University of Wisconsin. Matthew was the editor of a Christian music publication, and they hit it off and became the love of each other. They have a wonderful relationship. In October, despite accusations that Matthew was not straight, they took a significant step towards married life, and the couple have 3 lovely children, Elias, Adeline, and Ezra Lu. Over time, Jessica Turner became the founder of the Creative Mom blog and Instagram influencer, while Matthew Turner became the author of best-selling Christian children's books. Before Matthew's revelation, they were a happy family who loved to spend time together, and unfortunately, that gift of joy soon came to an end. While the couple tried to save their marriage, things didn't go as planned and they had brief moments of satisfaction, but for the most part Jessica felt emotionally distant from Matthew despite his presence. She cried often and even faced this constant emotional pain on her way to work, and the couple eventually made the difficult decision to divorce. Jessica said, "I think because our marriage ended, we still cared deeply about each other, so after the marriage ended, the idea that you can still love each other is very powerful, and despite Jessica's desire to rebuild her family, she also wants Matthew to be happy and healthy. Love is different now, but it's beautiful," she added. "When you found out that after your parents' divorce the children had a lot of questions about the reasons and process of their divorce, and they went through their own pain and shed tears as they reconciled with their parents." Matthew explained to his children that he was moving to another house 3/4 of a mile from their original home. Jessica and Matthew realized it was hard for their children to understand the details of their situation, so they made it a priority to make sure both parents were there for them at all times. Ex-spouses work together so their children can spend time together. Even if they can't save their marriage, they're still determined to be good parents and remain good friends despite everything the ex-couple has been through. Jessica and Matthew continued to play the family role of the kids at family get-togethers, dinners, birthday holidays, movie nights on Friday, and even on vacation in Florida. They found forgiveness and support in each other and continued their commitment to moral education and nurturing the growth and development of their children. Although Jessica and Matthew faced difficulties in the final years of their marriage, they did not let these hinder them from giving their ch. They forgave each other for choosing to focus on the positive aspects of the separation while prioritizing stable parenting despite past hurts, and worked together to meet the needs of children who recognize the importance of the role of parents. Matthew will always be grateful to have Jessica in his life before and after he revealed his true self, for her unwavering love and support. Matthew thanked his ex-wife for accepting him even if it meant ending their marriage. Matthew shared, "Without Jessica by my side to help me overcome every fear, many of the steps I've taken recently wouldn't have happened despite the divorce and separation. Jessica and Matthew have taken an important step. They supported each other even after the divorce, and they learned the value of forgiveness and empathy, which helped them recover from the pain of ending their marriage. Jessica and Matthew understand that the reasons for their divorce may be controversial among those who don't know their full story. Matthew stressed, "Coming out to my kids was one of the hardest and best things I've ever done. The love and protection of their stories will always be our priority, no matter what their priority is to protect their loved ones, especially their families and their children. They always try to put their children's well-being first, and although their romantic journey is over, Jessica and Matthew are still willing to stay together. Finding a new love in their lives, Jessica admits she's sad about what can't go on, but she also admits there are possibilities ahead as they separate. If love came again, they would say I do again. They haven't ruled out finding the right guy. While Jessica and Matthew's journey may not have ended happily, they know they gave each other the love they deserve. Now they choose to grow apart but remain best friends, mutual parents, and colleagues who pursue their dreams despite the odds. They believe and hope that most days will get better. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch our videos. If you like our content, please don't forget to subscribe and like. It will help us continue to create more great content.